In the headlines, a mother of three who desperately tried to end a 13-year abusive relationship was chopped to death by her husband, who has now gone into hiding. Deputy Chief Elections Officer Roxanne has been arrested by the police and remains in custody as the probe continues into electoral fraud at the March 2 general and regional elections. 2 more COVID-19 deaths are recorded, and of the 10 deaths in Region 1, 8 persons died at home and were only tested for the virus posthumously. And in Sport Minister Charles Ramson Jr. says he will follow the lawful process in appointing a director of sport. That's the news. I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We started by telling you that threats and years of abuse ended in the death of a 28-year-old mother of 3 on Tuesday. The woman was fatally chopped by her reputed husband, with whom she shared a 13-year relationship. Bibi Katoon has the details.
28-year-old Clarabelle Johnson, known as Bella of Cooper Street, Alboystown, Georgetown, was chopped to the back of her right knee on Tuesday morning by her reputed husband, 45-year-old Nicholas Sean Williams. The chop reportedly severed a major artery, leading to intense bleeding. The mother of 3 died moments later at the Georgetown Public Hospital, while Williams fled the scene. When the newsroom arrived at the scene, there was a large patch of blood stain on the road where the incident occurred. Johnson's best friend, Candace Leong, told the newsroom that Williams was always verbally and physically abusive.
Yeah, this thing is always happen. Nagging and nagging, but she's lived by her mother.
Did she used to make any report to the station?
Yeah, she make report and so. I friend she late part, man. I always tell she, man, don't worry, they change, but me not do what to do. My friend kill me friend.
According to the woman's mother, Patricia Johnson, her daughter was in a relationship with the suspect since she was 15 years old, but the family was unaware. They later moved in together but separated after Williams became abusive. Following the separation, Johnson, the youngest of 5 siblings, moved back into her parents' home with her 3 children.
I saw her like about 6 o'clock this morning. She come in my room and she said, "Morning, mommy." I said, "Morning." Well, I think she gone back in her room. Because she not miss get up and come and, tell us and think me and she father. I didn't know she come out and gone on the road. Because she was, I said she must sleep, gone back and lie down. Because she not me go back and lie down. But I didn't know when somebody called, like, about 6:20. About 6:20, somebody called and said that, Uncle, auntie, look, your daughter get chopped up. So by the time we could have run out now, my husband run out, right? So I had on my night dress. So I go back in, because like, I get so confused now, right? And I'm looking for clothes, but I can't find a clothes. But my clothes are right in front of me. So now I am. And I think they done gone with her to the hospital. I couldn't see nothing. I go when I go. That's how I see my daughter she died. And I couldn't bear it anymore.
According to Patricia, her daughter has several chop wounds sustained at the hands of her reputed husband. As such, Williams was imprisoned and Johnson subsequently obtained a restraining order against him some 9 years ago. But neither helped in stopping the threats.
But he always will treat her. He always, he chops in her face. He chops in her face. Then he go and he chops her on her hand. Even they left kind of funny with the hand. Right? And then now he always come threatening her. Because she tell him she don't want him. Right? He always coming around. Even to get him locked up. And actually get a thing against him. For 10 years he get it. He mustn't come around her. That is, we call it order, right? And the thing, when he get locked up, she was so sorry for him. Right? She released him from jail. But still he didn't hear it. He used to come around here, threatening she all the time. Up to yesterday he was here, threatening her. She walk away and come in the house and go in her room, left the outside. That's what he do. But this morning now, she left and she go on the road. And now she's go out on the road and every morning, right? But I don't know.
Up to news time, the suspect was not yet arrested. The children, aged 7, 9, and 11 years old, are now left with their grandparents. Bibi Katoon reporting for the newsroom.
Now, 26-year-old Kieran Taylor, known as Leno, on Tuesday walked out of the High Court of Freeman after spending 5 years on remand for the murder of Senasi Lewis, who was gunned down at a bar in Alboystown, Georgetown in 2015. Taylor, formerly of Charlestown, was charged with the September 4, 2015 murder of Lewis, which occurred at the corners of James and Alboy Street outside the Ghetto Flex Bar. The case was called before Justice Navindra Singh and a 12-member jury during the opening of the October session of the Damrar Assizes on the strict COVID-19 health guidelines. Taylor pleaded not guilty to the charge and was represented by attorney-at-law Nigel Hughes. The main witnesses in the case, Troy Abrams, during testimony indicated that he could not remember the details of what transpired on the night of the shooting. This caused Taylor's attorney to make a no-case submission on the grounds that his client has no case to answer since the key witness could not remember anything. The judge upheld the no-case submission and directed the jury to return a formal verdict of not guilty. Lewis was gunned down by two men who fled on foot and then joined a car to make good their escape. Three other men were injured during the shooting. Lewis, according to an autopsy, received 15 gunshot injuries. The Deputy Chief Elections Officer, Roxanne Myers, was arrested on Tuesday after she reportedly refused to cooperate with the Guyana Police Force, which is currently investigating the March 2, 2020 general and regional elections. Bibi Katoon tells us more.
The Deputy Chief Elections Officer, Roxanne Myers, on Tuesday voluntarily visited the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, after she learned that she was wanted by the police for questioning in relation to the March 2nd general and regional elections. Myers was accompanied by her lawyers, Nigel Hughes and Ronald Daniels, from the law firm of Hughes, Fields and Stobie. The newsroom spoke with Mr. Hughes over the phone.
She was informed today that the police wanted to interview her. She attended the police station with her lawyers. When we got there, we had a bit of a wait, and then they questioned her. She said she wanted to exercise her right to silence. And they then said that they were going to arrest her, and they then said they're going to keep her in custody.
Hughes said his client was subsequently arrested after she chose to maintain her silence. She was arrested for obstructing the course of justice, and the attorney said he is unsure of where his client is being kept.
She's been arrested for obstructing the course of justice because she exercised her right to silence. On the basis of obstructing the course of justice, she has been sent to one of their lockups somewhere.
The Guyana Police Force in August announced that it will launch a comprehensive investigation into allegations of criminal conduct by Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield and Returning Officer for Region 4 Clement Mingo in relation to the March elections. Lowenfield and Mingo are already facing criminal charges in the Georgetown Magistrates Court relating to fraud, misconduct in office and breach of the public's trust by providing results of the March 2nd elections known to be false. The GCOM officials are accused of attempts to tamper with the elections results to give the APNU-AFC a victory. This led to a 5-month delay in the declaration of the results of the election. Also before the court on related charges is Chairman of the People's National Congress Reform, the largest party in the coalition, Valdo Lawrence. Several other GCOM officials were also questioned in the ongoing investigation. Bibi Katoon reporting for the newsroom.
When the newsroom returns, 2 more COVID-19 deaths take the total to 95, and of the 10 deaths in Region 1, 8 persons died at home and were only tested for the virus posthumously. Stay tuned. This is the newsroom. Guyana on Tuesday recorded 2 more COVID-19 deaths, taking the overall death toll to 95. A 67-year-old man and a 61-year-old woman, both of Region 4, died while receiving care at a medical facility. Late on Monday night, an 84-year-old female from Region 4 also died while receiving care at a medical facility, while earlier a 38-year-old man also died from COVID-19 related complications. On Monday also, the newsroom reported the death of 55-year-old retired nurse Mark King, who died in the COVID-19 ICU of the Georgetown Public Hospital. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health did not reveal any new COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, noting that the National Public Health Reference Laboratory is still in the process of validating test results. There has been an alarming spike in COVID-19 related deaths in the country, and Region 1, Barima Waini, has contributed to the high number. The Regional Health Officer, Dr. Steve Chaffon, told Newsroom on Tuesday that the patients who died in Region 1 were all elderly with underlying health conditions. He said a majority died at home and were swabbed and tested positive for COVID-19 after their deaths. As of October 5, 2020, Region 1 recorded 486 confirmed cases of COVID-19. But Dr. Chiffon told the Newsroom via telephone interview that there are only 41 active cases in the region.
Of the 10 deaths that are recorded in the region, all of them are over 65 years old, right? And 8 of those that are over 65 years old, 8 of them have been swabbed post-mortem, or saying they came dead before arrival to the hospital.
Oh.
So when they came, we swabbed. So it was a post-mortem swab. These are all patients that we know with diabetes, high blood pressure, the normal old age thing. These are persons that died at home, but they were never contacts of persons. They were never in contact tracing list and all of that. But what we did, after you talk to the family and when they see how the person died, with this shortness of breath just before they succumb, we decided that, since we have local transmission going on here in the region, we decided that those persons should be swabbed. And that's how we found more persons. And from those deaths, we would have gotten the contact tracing. As expected in any pandemic, you will have another, or you will have a wave, like a new wave. So that's what we're experiencing now. We would have already, we have systems in place and we're managing our patients here. To date, we have 41 active cases in the region, and we're managing them. Most of our cases are being discharged and they're healthy post-discharge. We follow up with them. The new cases are region-wide. We have cases in Matakai, Mabaruma, and Maruka. But there are certain areas of these places that are the hotspots, and those are the areas that we're targeting. The areas of these places are Sibai in Matakai, Arakaka in Matakai, St. Anselm in Mabaruma, Arukamai in Mabaruma, and Kamwata in Maruka.
Burdened by the 31-year monopoly by the Guyana Telephone and Telegraph Company, Guyanese can now enjoy the benefits of a liberalized telecommunications sector. Those benefits include greater choices, better quality of service, and lower prices for consumers, a lack Guyanese have been complaining about for years. Kurt Campbell reports.
After years of promises and delays, Guyana's telecommunications sector was formally liberalized on Monday. It is anticipated that Guyanese will feel an immediate positive impact from the implementation of legislation passed back in 2016. Those legislation make provision for the creation of a modern and competitive environment for telecommunications, and which will immediately result in greater choices, better quality of service, and lower prices for consumers. Prime Minister Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, who issued the commencement orders to fully bring into force the Telecommunications Act 2016 and the Public Utilities Commission Act 2016, said the liberalization also seeks to ensure that all operators continue to enjoy all benefits conferred under the old legislative regime.
This decisive step is consistent with our government's vision of furthering national and regional social and economic development. The legislation specifically addresses the expansion of telecommunications networks and services into unserved and underserved areas through the institution of a new Universal Access, Universal Services Program.
The liberalization, while allowing for completion and an expansion of services, essentially ends the monopoly GTT holds. The legislation creates a clear, harmonized framework and a level playing field for the sector that is currently lacking and which are characterized by transparency and non-discrimination in the issuance and monitoring of license.
And at the same time, guarantees equal treatment of stakeholders to the ultimate benefit and protection of consumers. To the APNU-AFC coalition, for some inexplicable reason, in 2018 and again in 2019, APNU-AFC only brought a few sections of the Act into force, frustrating the intent and objective of the Act by denying Guyanese the benefits flowing therefrom.
The Telecommunications Act 2016 was first laid by the People's Progressive Party government in the 9th Parliament on August 2011 and laid again in the 10th Parliament in 2012 after extensive consultations with both the public and operators. During the life of both parliaments, the act enjoyed bipartisan support. It spent considerable time before a select committee chaired by Carl Greenidge and included former Prime Minister Samuel Hines and then Minister Mohammed Irfan Ali. The act was finalized before the 2015 elections and was enacted by the coalition government in 2016 by Minister Catherine Hughes, again with bipartisan support. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
Still ahead on the newsroom, significant improvements for Sheriff and Mandela Road by Christmas, and Guyana observes 44th anniversary of Cubana air disaster. Stay tuned. This is the newsroom. American Marine Services Inc. is the latest company to join at least 4 other companies in returning former sugar estate lands at Ogle on the east coast of Demerara, which were issued to them by the former APNU AFC government. The companies to surrender lands have all slated an interest in participating in a more transparent process. With the return of the People's Progressive Party to government, several companies, including Windsor Estates, Cardiology Services Inc., Hospital Developer, and Navigant Builders, have all returned lands issued to them. In a statement on Tuesday, American Marine Services Inc. said it entered into an agreement of sales with the National Industrial and Commercial Investment Limited, NISL, for 20 acres of land at Ogle for the purpose of constructing a 247-unit residential complex. But the company noted that it has surrendered the lands given the circumstances surrounding the vesting of that property. The company says it looks forward to working with the government of Guyana and NISL towards achieving its development goals. The move by the former government and NISL to sell several plots of the Ogle lands formerly under sugar cane cultivation to developers had raised eyebrows. Most of the lots were sold shortly before the March 2 elections. The questionable transactions involved the transfer of the lands located near a major planned highway that would link the east coast to the east bank of Demerara. The Minister of Public Works, Juan Edgel, during a recent site visit to the Sheriff Street Mandela Road, revealed that the 4-lane expansion project should see great improvements by Christmas, with the paving of the road set to commence early November. The minister also visited the Danzig and Fairfield foreshores at Maikoni on the east coast of Demerara to assess ongoing sea defense works in preparation for the next spring tide, which is due in 2 weeks. Isnel Patwa reports.
By December, commuters should be traversing with ease on the upgraded 4-lane Sheriff Mandela Road. Minister of Public Works Juan Edgel, during a site visit at the weekend, said while he is satisfied with the ongoing works to the road, the Chinese contractor needs to pick up the pace. The project will see the upgrading of one of the most critical road links in the country, one that connects the East Bank to the East Coast. The project, which is funded through a loan by the Inter-American Development Bank, was shut down over non-compliance with environmental standards in November 2019. Works to the road resumed late September this year.
We are working to ensure that we get this road delivered in the shortest possible time. This is a $31 million investment funded by the IDB. Even though funded by the IDB, somewhere along the line, we still have to pay it back, so it's taxpayers' money. And we are ensuring that we have good compliance. We have no doubt that the contractors could get the work done. We have seen what they're doing. By Christmas, we must see significant improvement on this road by Christmas. Because my instructions is that by the beginning of November, beginning of November latest, paving must be well on the way. The testing and paving must be well on the way.
Meanwhile, the minister also visited the Danzig and Fairfield foreshores in Maikoni to inspect emergency sea defense works aimed at lessening the impact of the next spring tide.
My main reason for being here today is, one, to get a first-hand look at what is happening. And with an expected high tide in 2 weeks, we are being proactive. So this is not just merely checking to see how work is going. With an anticipated high tide in 2 weeks, and then we have Diwali coming up, which will also have a major high tide. I'm here to ensure I have a first-hand look, understand what is taking place when we engage the contractors to protect this area.
Since July 2019, residents and farmers in the area have been suffering major losses to livestock and farmlands with several breaches of the sea defense. Now the government is working on permanent and emergency fixtures to 7 areas in Maikoni. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanalo Patwo.
The Guyana Power and Light GPL has several projects in train to maximize the potential of power generation in both the short and long term. Samru Ramtahal, the new Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Strategic Operations at GPL, said they were looking at 3 avenues. One of the projects entails securing an additional 5 megawatts of power from the Giftland Mall through a power purchase agreement. Personnel are currently on the ground working on the connections, and GPL expects to see the project completed by month end. This will bring much needed relief and mitigate blackouts for thousands of residents on the east coast of Demerara corridor. The Giftland system has a 6.7 megawatts output capacity. However, it only uses 1.6 megawatts during prime operations. Now, it has been 44 years since 73 persons died in what is commonly referred to as the Cubana air disaster, where Cubana, the aviation flight 455 from Barbados to Jamaica, was brought down on October 6, 1976 by a terrorist bomb attack. 11 Guyanese were killed. On Tuesday, Guyana observed the event in ceremonial style with the laying of wreaths. There were no speeches at the event, which was held at the Cubana Air Disaster Monument in the compound of the University of Guyana. A minute of silence was observed, and then there was the reveille, a trumpet call done by ranks of the Guyana Defense Force.
It's important from this respect. We have to continue to build a world that is based on peace. We cannot ever countenance a situation where people are terrorized, and terrorized because of their choices or ideology or positions. What happened in 1976, I think the year is correct that I'm quoting here, 1976, was a terrorist act. Guyanese lost their lives in that act. So I'm representing, even though I'm representing one of the countries, young people died. Our young people died as a result of a terrorist act. So I'm very happy to see that the president made this a priority. It's something that we should continue to do every year. But really, the principle is important. The principle is that we have to remember occasions like this so that we keep promoting the idea of peace. And really, that stretches not in Guyana, but across the region and across the world. Those were young people who died for no reason of their own, had no involvement in any kind of battle and war with anyone else, and it was just a dastardly act against humanity. And that's why you have these types of activity.
Still ahead on the newsroom, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Newsroom. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We're starting off by telling you that a new director of sport will be appointed after the National Sports Commission is fully functional, says the Sport Minister Charles Ramson Jr. Speaking to media operatives on the sidelines of an event on Tuesday, Ramson Jr. said that the Sports Commission has to engage with the subject minister on the appointment. Guyana has been without a director of sport since early August, when the previous director of sport, Christopher Jones, was relieved of his duties. Minister Ramson Jr. also revealed that the former director of sport, Neil Kumar, has been appointed an advisor to the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport.
Interestingly, even though the Act is what creates the position of the Director of Sports, you would have had a renewal of a contract even in its absence, even in the fact that it was already expired. I don't intend to break the law. For a good period of time, 5 months or so, we kept emphasizing the need to be compliant. So it's not until we have that sorted and fully established can we go about the process of appointing a director of sport. It's actually the National Sports Commission that makes the appointment. It's not the minister who makes the appointment. The National Sports Commission has to engage with the minister, right? So until you've got a fully established National Sports Commission, you're not going to be able to have a director of sport.
Can you say if Mr. Kumar is back there in an acting position?
No, not for the Sports Commission. He's an advisor.
Clarify that, please.
Advisor to the minister, not in sports.
And he's not taken up any offices at the Sports Commission?
He has an office, but not at the National Sports Commission. So my intention is to move all of the programs, meaning youth, sport, and culture, into our Main Street office.
Now, a broad-based approach capturing a large network of ideas and opinions is what the Sport Minister Charles Ramson Jr. is looking to tap into as part of efforts to foster sport development in Guyana. Engagements have already begun in this regard, and they are set to continue this week through working sessions with key stakeholders.
We've got to do our sports policy. That's happening right now. We can get this done in 3 weeks if we really were to put our minds towards it. But it would exclude a lot of people in the process. It'll also exclude a lot of organizations. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that the process involves as many people as possible. So tomorrow, as an example, we start our second round of, I guess, consultations, but it's really engagements with all the sports associations. What we're doing there is having a working session so that we can start to frame our mutual goals and how do we improve the overall management of their various associations and sports. We can have the overall sports development.
Courtney Walsh, the new West Indies women's head coach, is seeking to go deep into his reservoir of experience as he looks to bring a turnaround in fortunes of the team. One key area is finding the right balance of players. Akeem Green reports.
Since the 5th over World Cup in England, where they did not qualify for the semi-finals, their only 5th over series victory has been against Sri Lanka in the Caribbean just after the World Cup in 2017. 6 bilateral series since have produced 5 losses and 1 draw. In the fancy T20 format, the 2016 world champions did not make the semi-finals for this year's World T20 in Australia. In their last 2 bilateral T20 international series against India and England, they've lost all 10 matches. Walsh indicated on Monday during a virtual briefing, it is imperative to find the right balance of players.
We got to sort of refocus, re-energize, and try to recreate and spot new talent as well. Unfortunately, we're not playing as much cricket in the region for the women as we'd like to, but we have to look at what we have and to get that sparkle back in, you know. At the end of it, I would like to see us smiling again, playing the West Indian brand of cricket that we know we can play. As I say, there's a few people around who has not done well in the past. So we have to re-evaluate all of what we have, look at those players, look at the emerging players that we have, and try to strike the right balance. There's a couple of players that have been consistent in what they've been doing and been carrying the team, and there's a couple of players who need to sort of get the workload back up. And there's also some young players out there that are keen to get in on. So I think for me, it's striking the right balance and getting everybody on the same page. But the most important thing is the focus of West Indies cricket and to get to play the type of umbrella cricket that we want to and can play, and to keep improving all the time.
It's not difficult to pinpoint the reason why West Indies have struggled. Their batting has been a major letdown, more so the lack of contributions from their supporting cast when seasoned campaigners failed to fire. The recently concluded series against England, where they lost all 5 T20s, was a perfect example. Only DeAndre Doughton got over 100 runs with 185, with the next best being Stephanie Taylor with 78.
You can't just let it be dependent on one or two players. Yes, we have those players who are going to lead the charge, but we have good backup players who can and will have to step to the plate. So it's giving them that confidence, that self-belief, and it's work in progress. I'm happy that I'm going to be able to get a chance to do that again. But I don't want the team to be just dependent on one or two players. One or two players have a role to play, but everybody in the team has a role to play. And if everybody fire together, then we're going to become a much better team quicker. But if those players get good backup and good support as well, then it will put us in a good stead. So the whole idea is to give them, as I said earlier, self-belief, that confidence. And sometimes we're afraid to fail, but if you're failing and you're getting better or you're improving by making a mistakes or two, I can live with that. But it can't be the same constant mistakes all the time. So I won't be afraid of the players making mistakes, but giving them that confidence and that self-belief that you have a job to do, we back you to go out and do it, and so that they can go out and express themselves.
Walsh also hopes to get female players involved in the proposed high-performance system Cricket West Indies is set to implement in the near future. He also called for more female cricket at all levels, so as they can expand the pool of available players. For the newsroom, Markin Green.
Some IPL news now. Mumbai Indians surged to the top of the IPL points table after a commanding 57-run win over Rajasthan Royals on Tuesday in Abu Dhabi. A brilliant 79 not-out from 47 balls from Surya Kumar Yadav powered Mumbai Indians, the four-time champions, to 193 for 4. He was supported by Rohit Sharma with 35, Hardik Pandya with 30 not-out, and Quinton de Kock 23. Shreyas Gopal had 2 for 28 for Rajasthan. In reply, Rajasthan lost 3 wickets in the power play, including skipper Stephen Smith and the informed Sanju Samson, and they were left to play catch-up cricket thereafter. Jos Buttler was the only man to really get going, smashing 70 off 44, and his England teammate Jofra Archer made 24 as they managed 136 all-out in 18.1 overs. Jasprit Bumrah returned career-best figures of 4 for 20, while James Pattinson and Trent Bolt had 2 each. While Mumbai moved to the top of the table with their 4th win in 6 games, Rajasthan slipped to 7th with their 3rd loss in 5 matches. Tomorrow it's match 21 between Kolkata Knight Riders and Chennai Super Kings starting 10 hours in Abu Dhabi. Now, with a sweep out of the question for the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals following a Game 3 loss to the Miami Heat on Sunday, the next best thing is in a 7-game series is taking a 3-1 lead. That's because until 2016, no team had overcome a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals until the LeBron James-led Cleveland Cavaliers won 3 elimination games in a row against the Golden State Warriors. Jimmy Butler and the Heat now have renewed hope after the 115-104 success on Sunday to make the series 2-1, but James said the Lakers are not worried after losing their first game of the finals. A win for the Heat tonight, which levels the series to all, would make things interesting going forward, but the Lakers wouldn't want to endure such drama, and the aim is to move within a game of closing out the championship. Game time is 21 hours, and you can follow the action as it unfolds on the networks. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. Of course, you can find updates on these and other stories on our website, newsroom.gy, our Facebook page, and Instagram. On behalf of the entire news team, my name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Be safe. See you next time.